Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Maze MTG here, back with another daily deck tech video. Today we're having a look at another deck for traditional standard, so best of three, and it's a deck that Ondrej Strasky'S been recently playing on his stream. He released a sideboard guide for via Twitter yesterday, and it looks like a lot of fun. So that deck is Ondrej Strasky'S Gruul Midrange list. This is the deck below. It looks kind of similar to the Gruul Midrange list we looked at previously. However, as soon as I mouse over this card, you'll probably start to realize something a bit different's going on. So, Charging Monstrosaur, text box is quite empty, but there's two powerful keywords in there, Trample and Haste. Otherwise, it's a 5/5 for 5. So, just a very large creature goes over the top of a lot of 4/4s in the format, and it's just a big, hasty dinosaur. In terms of the rest of the deck, you've got 4 Llanowar Elves and 3 Paradise Druid acting as early acceleration. Thorn Lieutenant as the other choice of 2-drop allows you to utilize bonus lands in the late game with its activated ability. It's quite hard to remove cleanly with single target removal spells. You get that 1/1 green elf warrior creature token as well, and the 3 toughness allows it to survive interactions with common creatures out of mono red, certain creatures out of mono white. It's just a powerful card. 3 copies of Lightning Strike acts as the deck's only removal, but they also have the added benefit of being able to go upstairs, because this deck is all about aggression. In the 3-drop slot, we have 3 Gruul Spellbreaker, pretty standard for Gruul decks at this point. Whether you want a 4/4 Trampler or a 3/3 coming in with haste, either way, on your turn, you and the Spellbreaker both have hexproof as well. The other playset in the 3-drop slot is Domri, Anarch of Bolas, so this can ramp you into Charging Monstrosaurs on turn 5 if you don't have any other acceleration, or the -2 because your creatures are typically going to be larger than your opponents. You're going to be able to have that fight be functional removal as well. And the global buff to power also means your Llanowar Elves, your Paradise Druids, they can start getting in and become real threats as well. The only other card with a converted mana cost of 3 is Legion Warboss. Not much to say about Legion Warboss at this point. There's a single one in the main deck. As you'll find out when we go to the sideboard, there are more in there. But Legion Warboss is a bit on the small side compared to the other creatures in the deck, so you can see why the majority of them are starting in the sideboard, but sometimes you do just want to draw one against decks like Esper Planeswalkers, Jeskai Planeswalkers in Game 1. The 4-drop slot is where a lot of power and toughness can be found, a full playset of Nullhide Ferox. Even if you don't get to live the dream of your opponent thought erasuring it out of your hand, you still do have a 6/6 for 4 mana that's hexproof unless your opponent's willing to commit more mana to it. In terms of not being able to cast non-creature spells, not much of a problem if you're sticking your 6/6 for 4, and if you really need to Lightning Strike the turn after, you can always pay the hexproof tax on your own Ferox. The other 4-drop is 3 copies of Ripjaw Raptor. Don't want a full playset, however, Ripjaw Raptor, 5 toughness for 4 mana, it's got that 4 power. When it enrages, you get to draw a card, so your opponent can't really chump block it profitably, and when Domri fights off of it, again, you're going to be drawing cards because of the damage dealt in the fight. At 5, we've already seen Charging Monstrosaur. We're not just playing one for the memes, it's a full 4 copies of the powerful 5/5 Hasty Trampler, and that's backed up by 2 copies of Nissa Who Shakes the World. Static ability allowing you to ramp, that extra mana can be leveraged by Thorn Lieutenant, or just playing more than one spell a turn, and a +1 allows your lands to become threats that beat down as well, and especially with the Domri on the board, quite substantial threats. Also, because our Planeswalkers, both Domri and Nissa, have powerful static abilities in their own right, we can play around this card. We have 2 copies of the Immortal Sun in the main deck. So shut down opposing Planeswalkers, draw additional cards, buff your team. It does everything you want in a card, even if, at first glance, 6 Planeswalkers, 2 Immortal Suns might not be the best thing to go together. The mana base, very straightforward, much like the deck. 6 mountains, 9 forests, 4 Rootbound Crags, 4 Stomping Grounds, for a total of, I believe, 23 lands in the deck. Again, all of your mana sources come into play untapped, assuming you have something to make your Rootbound Crag come in, so you're not going to be wasting any time with Gruul Guildgates waiting for your lands to untap to make your plays, because we do have the potential to curve out with the way the deck's constructed. In terms of a sideboard, like I said, Ondrej Strasky'S has produced a sideboard guide for the deck which he has published. I will link to that in the description of the video below because that is quite useful to have. But just looking at the cards in the sideboards, the shocks, they're for matchups like Simic and Ban against Gruul, against Mono Red. Lava Coil, you want to be able to answer cards out of, again, Simic or Ban Ramp. You want to be able to exile Arclight Phoenixes. You need them against White Weenie when the 4th point of damage really matters. Kraul Harpooner, you may want to bring in against Grixis. You may want it against Esper Midrange. Is it Phoenix again? Just that fight ability is very powerful at picking opposing flyers out of the sky. Legion Warboss, like we've touched on already, like you might imagine, against decks like Esper Midrange, 4-color Commander Dreadhorde, Grixis decks. You want them in as early pressure and to threaten Planeswalkers. Thrashing Brontodons, so White Weenie, Mono Red, it just outsizes their creatures and you can get some utility off the ability to sacrifice it to blow up something like a Conclave Tribunal. Experimental Frenzy is a spicy card in the sideboard. This is for games that are likely to go longer or you want to go over the top of your opponent, just gain card advantage. So things like the Grixis deck against Gruul kind of in the mirror, again, allows you to just keep filling up with gas. And the last card in the sideboard, one Vivien Reid. Again, where you want to be able to accrue an advantage over a longer game. So in the mirror, against Grixis, against Is It Phoenix, and it has the added ability of being able to pick flyers out of the sky as well. If you do have any questions on the deck, any comments on the deck, if you do post them in the comments below, or like I said, I'm going to link to Ondrej Strasky'S Twitter, where he did post the deck list and the sideboard guide as well, so you'll be able to access that information. But otherwise, let's get straight onto the games. Okay, so first game with Ondrej Strasky'S Gruul deck. As ever with our traditional standard decks, we are going to be playing best of 3 matches, but I'll just show some game 1 so you get a couple of different opponents for the deck. We're going to be on the play here for game 1. We've got 4 lands, Llanowar Elves for acceleration, a Spellbreaker and a Strike. I don't think we can mulligan this, but we'd like to draw a few more threats to really get the pressure on our opponent. But can't complain too much about turn 2 Spellbreaker. It's going to come in as a 4/4 unless something crazy happens on our opponent's side. And they are shocking our elf, so guess we're not making a Spellbreaker after all, but Ferox is a pretty nice follow-up. We'll play this mountain in case we do want a Lightning Strike. If opponent is on mono red, that's a very real possibility. Runaway Steamkin. I think that's just going to eat a Lightning Strike now. I see no reason to let that persist on the battlefield. So we draw a mana, so we get to make Gruul Spellbreaker without shocking in. We'll give it a +1/+1 counter, means Lightning Strike doesn't answer it cleanly. Opponent's Viashino Pyromancer is not as big as a 4/4, although it does dome us for 2. And does an opponent have a follow-up? They're going to light up the stage, shock and Mountain in exile. So we've got a Nissa now for next turn. We're going to get in for 4 with the Spellbreaker. I think we're in the position to apply pressure to our opponent, knowing our follow-up is a 6/6 hexproof. The only thing that's kind of awkward is the fact that we can't cast Nissa the turn after we play this Ferox, but we'll see what happens. Worst case scenario, we can always wait until we have 7 lands, but currently opponent really can't get through this Ferox. An opponent is at 16 life, and 6 is a lot of damage. If opponent wants to double block, pay 2 mana, shock it, that's completely fine, because like I said, our follow-up would be Nissa, but shock's going dome instead, so do they have a light up the stage? Well, that was just being mana efficient, so that was a fantastic draw, another Ferox off the top. We're going to go straight to combat, jam with both our creatures. Opponent wants to double block the Spellbreaker, that's completely fine. Removes the threat of further damage from the board. Opponent goes down to 6. We'll make a Ferox, and this Stomping Ground tapped. And then opponent has 2 lethal attackers they have to contend with, both of which have hexproof. Viashino Pyromancer does put us to 12, but that is 12, not 0. And with 3 mana and 2 cards, they're definitely going to be in chump block mode. So the question here, they just explode. Fair enough. So that was game 1 with Monstrosaur Gruul, incredibly quick against mono red. We were certainly the beatdown. So I'll play out the rest of this match, and then I'll be back for game number 2. Okay, so we're back for our second camera game with the deck. If you want to know what happened in the mono-red match in game 2, we just, again, had creatures that outsized mono-red's creatures. They all had 4 toughness because of bringing Thrashing Brontodon in out of the sideboard, and the opponent just couldn't overcome their sheer toughness. We got to go on the offensive again with a Nullhide Ferox, and the opponent quickly crumbled. In terms of this hand for this game 1, I think it's a keep. We've got 2 elves, 2 turn 3 plays. It's going to be awkward if our elf gets shocked, but at least we have another elf for turn 2. An opponent plays an elf of their own. So we have our Lightning Strike. We're going to have to shock to play our Llanowar Elf. Could potentially be the mirror, which is interesting. Although opponent isn't indicating that yet, they're just showing us mono green cards. Vivien, Champion of the Wilds. Okie dokie. I imagine she going down. That's interesting. So opponent has a card in exile now. What do we want to do? I think I'd like to get that Vivien off the table. So I think we're just going to make a 3/3 Spellbreaker. And then just clear Vivien. And then pass. It not having 4 power might be awkward, but we can always play Domri next turn if it would matter. I think we might just be playing Domri next turn, honestly. And just kind of fighting off one of these Llanowar Elves. Is that actually true? What could we do otherwise? We could just play another Spellbreaker and another Elf. Or we could play Thorn Lieutenant and Lightning Strike something. This is an interesting turn. Or we could play Domri plus and make Thorn Lieutenant, actually. That's probably better. Well, we'll start by attacking with just Spellbreaker and see what happens. Because opponent... So, is opponent colour screwed or is opponent mono green? They attacked with Llanowar Elf, which suggested they didn't have anything to do with 4 mana. So maybe it would be prudent just to cast Domri and strike a Llanowar Elf? I suppose we have the fight if opponent does do anything particularly threatening. What would be the worst case scenario? Something like Carnage Tyrant next turn? That would be pretty bad for us. That would be pretty bad for us. So I guess we'll Lightning Strike the Elf. Because if they want to take 1 point of loyalty off Domri, that also denies them a mana, so puts them even further away from casting the spells they're not casting. Oh, so opponent is Gruul. So opponent puts that in with a counter. Domri's going to get knocked down to 3, but this is fine. Ooh, okay. So what we're going to do is make a Ferox. We're going to have the Ferox fight the Spellbreaker, and then we're going to get in for 4 with our Spellbreaker. And put opponent to 13. So we now have a 7/6 hexproof on the battlefield. Branch Walker's fine. Zagana. So opponent's, well, is 3 colours, but obviously they explore the Zagana away. Lightning Strike the Spellbreaker, sure. So currently we're... Ooh, Legion Warboss. Is that good on this board? The token gets eaten by the Branch Walker, so probably not. We're probably just looking to cast Spellbreaker and Lieutenant this turn, after attacking with Ferox. So we'll send with just Ferox, see what happens. Opponent takes. Put them to 6. We'll make a Spellbreaker with a counter, because then it outsizes the Branch Walker. And then we will plus Domri, because this also threatens a fight next turn, and we'll play a Thorn Lieutenant. And we'll pass. So we're quite far ahead on board here, and opponent concedes to that. Perfect. So games with this deck, they've been very quick so far, very fun. The deck's very efficient, very powerful. We'll see if we can fit a third in, so I'll see you very shortly. Okay, so our third camera game with Ondrej Strasky'S Gruul list. Again, we're going to be on the play. We're going to mulligan that, though. This hand is a bit better. Probably one of the more awkward opening hands we've had so far. But it's got some raw power there. We still have Elves, Lightning Strike, Nissa, and Charging Monstrosaur. So who could really send back a Monstrosaur? Opponent's thinking about their keep currently. They did keep their 7. We're going to keep our 6. Paradise Druid. I think we do top that. Because it's a play for turn 2 if our opponent does kill our Elves. If not, it's another piece of ramp. The last thing I want to do is bottom Paradise Druid and draw something else. Looks like our Elves is probably going to be shocked. Unless opponent's planning to opt. So this Steam Vent suggests opponent might be something like Blue-Red Phoenix. But either way, we're just going to jam Druid and see what happens next. So we do need to draw something to kind of get into this game. I don't think we'll be attacking with Paradise Druid at any point. Especially not given that. So just going to play an elf and pass. If opponent has removal, they probably kill the elf, but that's fine. I'd much rather just have a Paradise Druid rather than do 2 points of damage. Our creatures chunk the opponent for so much life. Okay, so the opponent is opting here. Opponent's thinking. Fairly sure opponent is going to be something like... well, it could still be Planeswalkers, I suppose. But I think we could play Blue-Red Phoenix. Oh no, they're going to shock my elf for sure. So we're back to 3 mana currently with our Fistful of Threats. Mobilized District, never mind, they are Planeswalkers. So whether they're blue-red or Jeskai remains to be seen. So we do draw our 4th land. We'll just play it and pass. Again, protecting Paradise Druid by holding up the Hexproof. Last thing I want to do is get this Lightning Striked. Opponent's passing again. Okay, my turn. So we draw the Stomping Ground. I think what we do is play Nissa and hope it resolves. Because if it does, we get to untap Stomping Ground. Spell Pierce. Okay, that's kind of gross. Makes me regret not jamming Monstrosaur. If opponent has removal for the Paradise Druid now, we could be in bad shape. Well. Looking to draw land. I suppose we're not under a ton of pressure yet. But opponent is a lot of cards up. Especially on our Malta 6 versus their 8. Yeah, they are Jeskai, okay. So Khan Sign of Urza. Hopefully this just draws a card. Wow, okay, so you can have a shock. So we know Teferi is now in exile. We really need land here. So we can Monstrosaur Khan down to 1. Okay, so we have 2 lightning strikes. So we could spend both of them to kill Khan. Khan has already replaced himself, but I really don't want to play against the Teferi, I don't think. And Khan is just going to go unchecked. And if we draw a land, we're going to want a Monstrosaur. Sorry, Khan, my old friend. You need to go to the graveyard. Yep, is this Sarkhan or something absurd? Okay, so... Sarkhan's kind of awkward, but could be worse. The shock... Oh, actually, no, that's quite bad for us. So the Monstrosaur just trades with Sarkhan. Sorry, trades with the dragon because of Sarkhan's trigger. I think we are pretty dead this game. We do draw the Stomping Ground. I think we do play Monstrosaur. I think we have to go after Sarkhan. Because it puts him 2 turns at least off casting another dragon. Off making another dragon, sorry. And it probably trades with this 4/4. And if we just draw something like Gruul Spellbreaker and Spellbreaker's good here, we can take Sarkhan down. I'm glad there wasn't a Khan in play, though. Yep. Sarkhan plus, Sarkhan gets in. I wonder how different this game would have been if we jammed Monstrosaur. Because I guess Planeswalkers doesn't really play anything that counters it, does it? They play maybe Sinister Sabotage or something? I'm not 100%. Well, it's something to know for next time. Just jam Monstrosaur. Well, that's a land. So Sarkhan's doing 4 damage next turn. Mobilized District gets to come in. I think we might just be dead in this game. So rather than talk about how supremely dead we are, what we can do is think about what's going on. So in this matchup, I imagine we want to board out our Lightning Strikes. It's possible we want to board out our Paradise Druids. What have we got here? Ooh, Ferox. Does Ferox do anything? Well, we're going to take 4, and opponent's going to have a dragon, and they have this. So no, we're just dead. So we explode. That is 2-1 in camera games with the deck. It'd be interesting to see how that game would have gone if we just jammed Charging Monstrosaur on 5. What do you think? Would you have played Monstrosaur or Nissa there? If you have thoughts on that or on anything else, please let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing so you can see more of my content. And if you want to see me play decks live, there's a link in the description below as well to my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/MazeMTG, where I play Magic most days on there. Currently I'm on day 20 of a 31-day streaming challenge, so I'll definitely be live later this evening. Otherwise, wherever you are in the world, I hope you enjoyed this video and you have a fantastic day, and I'll see you all next time.